Gov't Mule and you is like one of the most versatile things I know. Like you can play from reggae to hard rock and everything in between, you know. So I'm definitely be interested into knowing like how did you shape your really like all these influences, your background playing style, you know, to have this wide range, you know.
I love so many different types of music, and it's always been important to me to have the opportunity to play as many different types of music as possible, because I grew up loving so many different types of music. When Gov't Mule started in 1994, it was only intended to be a side project. We were going to make one album and do a short tour, and that was going to be it.
Yeah.
So we just happened to choose the power trio concept, the improvisational trio concept, because no one was doing that. But we could have easily chosen a dozen other directions. That's just the one we chose. And we didn't choose it to be forever,
Yeah.
you know. And so once we realized maybe we should be a real band, then we started gradually incorporating other influences, starting with the second record. You know, the first record is all kind of blues rock improvisational trio music, but the second record went into more different directions, and the third record even more, and then Woody died, and then we worked with all the different bass players, and each bass player brought in inspiration from where they were coming from, and that inspired us to continue down those paths, you know. So every time we worked with a different special guest, it kind of opened a door for a new direction, you know. I think we got away with it because we started doing that very early.
Yeah.
So from the beginning, people knew not to expect anything, I guess.
Yeah,
you know.
because it might be tricky sometimes to stick with an audience when they don't, you know.
Yeah.
Many times audience would like to know what they're getting, and
Yeah.
and they have these boundaries in their mind sometimes. So
It only took a short time for people to understand that that's what we were doing, you know. And if someone is new to Gov't Mule, maybe it's a surprise, but fans that have known us for a long time, you know.
That's actually part of the concept now.
Yeah.
And about like I mean, you're a tremendous like guitar player, and you're also a great singer, you know. I always wonder like, what actually, I'm sure like guitar came first, but maybe
No,
not.
actually,
No?
I started singing first.
Okay.
I started singing when I was 7 or 8, and I started playing guitar when I was 11. So all my early influences were singers, like Otis Redding and James Brown and Wilson Pickett and the Four Tops and the Temptations and Sam and Dave. And then when I started hearing rock music, Jimi Hendrix and Cream and Johnny Winter, that's what made me want to play guitar. But I had a few years of just hearing soul music prior to that, and the Beatles and stuff like that too. But in our house, soul music was the king, you know. My oldest brother had jazz records, you know, Sonny Rollins and Cannonball Adderley and Coltrane and Miles Davis. But he also had Elmore James and Howlin' Wolf and Albert King, you know. And my other brother had Traffic and Joe Cocker and Bob Dylan, and so it was from all different sides getting fed great music, you know.
Gov't Mule itself, like the name is already like maybe political in a way, the name itself. But to me, maybe I didn't notice it before, but like since the last 2-3 last records, I think like there's more and more like a political message in some of your songs, I think, to me, since like By a Thread and Shout as well, you know? And definitely this one with the context of today, like doesn't seem like a coincidence, you know, like to have this name, like this band's name, and I guess it's no coincidence.
No, you know, we've been a little political from the beginning, but this one is, I think, the most political because of the situation in the States right now that is so crazy. You know, there's a division between people more than any time in my lifetime. Well, maybe when I was a kid it was similar, but definitely in my adult lifetime it's never been this divided. And so a lot of the songs are written about what we're seeing, you know. Stone Cold Rage is about the division in the two groups of people that are living in America that are completely divided. Pressure Under Fire is about like working together to solve the problems and not depending on politicians to solve the problems. And Revolution Come, Revolution Go is about watching what's supposed to be progress but is actually not progress. One administration comes in, makes a bunch of changes. The next administration comes in and changes everything back. And it's like starting over.
So your Les Paul model, I always notice you get like a signature model, right? Like
Yes.
I've noticed that you get a toggle on those guitar, you know. So,
Yeah. That's the circuitry for that was designed by Peter Miller and John Cutler that used to do a lot of the work for Jerry Garcia. And when they contacted me at first to tell me that they had designed a volume pot for a Les Paul, that when you turned it down, the tone remained the same.
Yeah.
No, it didn't get duller and lose treble. And I said, well, that's very cool, but sometimes I like that sound, so can you put a switch where I can have it both ways? And so that's what that is. So if I switch it on, all the treble comes back to the sound when it's at a low volume. Because, you know, on a Les Paul, when you turn it down, the treble disappears. And that's cool, that's a good sound.
Yeah.
But sometimes if you want the treble back, you just flip that switch and it all comes back.
And the rest of the signature guitar, like, so Lester and Chester are the signature guitar? Yeah.
It's 59 neck, 58 body, Burstbucker 1, Burstbucker 2, Tone Pros bridge, and that switch. That's really, you know.
Like you never did like jump to play like some Fender stuff, like.
I actually played on the new record. I played a Telecaster on 2 or 3 songs.
Okay.
But it wasn't a Fender. It was Charles Whitfield. He's a guitar builder in Kentucky who makes really good guitars. And I used his Telecaster, and then I told Fender, and then they gave me a Tele and a Strat, so I can experiment with them a little bit, because I used to play a Stratocaster in the 90s that I used on my first solo record, Tales of Ordinary Madness, and on 7 Turns, the Allman Brothers album. But it got stolen.
Okay.
And so I never replaced it, and I was playing Fenders less and less anyway. But now it's kind of nice to go back and experiment a little bit. I still prefer Gibsons 90% of the time.
But it gives like another flavor and different.
And it depends on like a song, you know. A few of the songs kind of cried out for that sound, you know.
Yeah, cool. One thing like I would like to check out. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think I read that somewhere, maybe in a message board, something like that. Like so, I've read at some point like you actually like to on purpose use long length cable to make the tone smoother or stuff like that, you know.
Farmer used to like that, and he kind of talked me into trying it, because I don't like tons of top end, and sometimes being in a situation where the top end is less, whether it's the cable or whatever the situation may be, the sound sometimes is better, you know. But I don't know. It's just something that we started doing, and it seemed to work good. I don't necessarily do it in the studio. It depends. We just see what sounds better and go with it, you know. But it's so different every night on stage. Yeah. Every room sounds different. The power is different in every room. Sometimes your amp sounds brighter. Sometimes it sounds duller. So we're always experimenting.
Yeah, that's actually like a really interesting thing, because I like when, people like break those rules, especially in the internet age, there's so much rules in gear and tone,
Yeah.
Because there's so many guys tell you like you have to do this, you have to do that, and you definitely have to avoid like to have so much long cables and you know what I mean, like. But
yeah,
so
some people, some people use cables that you only use one direction. You don't. It doesn't go both directions, and they want to get as much of that top end as possible, or the fastest sound. I've never had good luck using those kind of cables. It just always did nothing for me, But it's just experimenting and whatever works at the moment, If you try something, if it sounds good, okay. If it doesn't sound good, try something else.
And so from the guitar you go like to the. Actually, you didn't have like many pedals on. There was many expressions, but you get like this big controller or something like that, like this black thing, like.
Yeah. In Europe,
it looks like it was a switcher for all the pedals, but I haven't seen like the other pedal actually on stage.
Well, in the States, I have a Bob Bradshaw system that all the pedals are in a rack with drawers.
Yeah.
And I only use the controller to turn them on and off, and it's true bypass. Everything is bypassed when it's not being used.
Yeah, you can combine.
But it's really big and heavy.
Yeah,
and
not good for flying.
And not good for flying. So when we come to Europe, or if we fly for a one-off show, I have this fractal system where all my effects have been cloned. It's not quite as good, but some of them are perfect and some of them are not as good. Like, as an example, the Leslie simulator, which I use a Hughes and Kettner Rotosphere. The clone version doesn't sound very good. It sounds like a chorus pedal, but it doesn't sound like a Leslie. Yeah. And so it's not as good. The tremolo is good. The delays are pretty good. So
is it stock stuff from Fractal, or is it stuff that's designed for you? Or?
They copied my sounds.
So it's custom
they took
stuff.
all the effects that I use in the Bradshaw rig in my main rig, and copied them. And so they're my sounds, but certain ones copy great and certain ones don't.
Okay, so you mentioned the Leslie, so it's using kind of Rotosphere, right? Because to me it's one of your trademark tones, like this, not only clean, actually you also use it like distorted tone as well, but you lose a lot of that, I guess. I love your modulation sound, really.
Yeah.
Like the cleans you get like since like the early day. I mean, since Troy's and Shuffle and stuff like that, it was already there,
I mean, for me, the sound I had tonight is not quite as good as the actual Rotosphere.
Yeah.
But it's still okay.
It does the job. Like from the audience, I can tell you. It makes,
and it keeps me from having to fly with my main rig,
But I say that, but since I never seen you in the U.S., maybe I've never seen you with the proper sound.
Yeah, right. That's true. Because the one thing I love about the Rotosphere is it sounds like a real Leslie.
Yeah.
It really does. It has a tube, and it has a break like a Leslie, and you can compare the two, and it's pretty convincing.
To me, that's definitely your trademark, like effects, like on the clean, on the dirty part as well. That makes you.
I use it quite a bit. And I'm not unhappy with the sound I had tonight, but it's not quite as good as the sound I like.
Okay. Okay, okay. I think like I mentioned like Sounds of Life being my favorite from the new one. I think like you're playing this Rotosphere on that one too. Yeah.
And that's the Rotosphere.
Yeah.
Mike, and I could have played through a real Leslie in the studio, but I chose to use the Rotosphere because what I like about that is that it's the same sound, just with the Leslie. Where when you plug into a real Leslie, the sound changes.
Yeah.
It becomes much more mid-rangey. And so with that in mind, I really like the Rotosphere a lot.
Okay, okay. Yeah, you mentioned the tremolo, the delay, yeah, the main effects. You get some expression pedal as well, like some wine stuff like that.
There's an octaver.
Yeah.
And there's a discombobulator, which is an envelope filter.
Okay. So what is doing this one, like the
discombobulator? Yeah. It's you know, it's kind of like a Mutron or something. It's for the Ottawa, you know, the envelope filter thing, and the cloned version is not quite as good, but you just play to the effect that it's giving you. You know, what I tend to emphasize to younger musicians is don't get hung up on trying to make your sound perfect every night. You play to what is there.
Yeah.
And so that's the same if you plug into a new amp or a new guitar, it gives you a different sound, and if you play to that, then it's better, you know.
And I think you were like, I don't know if you got that clone or not, but you were like quite a big fan of the Klon Centaur, I think, the Overdrive one.
I do, and we cloned that as well.
Okay. So that Overdrive, obviously, I never played through one, but it's really beloved.
Yeah,
among
people
the
love
guys who use it, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's also like really hyped and really overpriced actually in the used market and stuff like that. So I wanted to know what's so special about this Overdrive. What makes it better like than a Tube Screamer or something like that?
You know, I don't know.
Not necessarily better, but it's different.
I like it better.
Yeah.
Personally, I think the Klon sounds better than a Tube Screamer. But I don't know why it sounds better. I know that, you know, Stevie Ray Vaughan used to use a Tube Screamer, and he used to use, one of them was just to get the same sound but a little bit louder. So if he was playing a solo and the band got louder and louder and louder and he needed a little more volume, he would step on the Tube Screamer and it was supposed to sound the same but louder.
But you get a mid bump, you know, like with Tube Screamer.
The Klon, the guy that designed that told me when I first met him that he spent a year and a half trying to figure out how to make it, if you set it all at 0 and then just turn the gain, the level up a little bit, it's the exact same sound.
Totally transparent.
Yeah. And I used to use it just for that for a while.
Okay.
And then I decided that's kind of a waste because it's such a good sounding unit. Most of my distortion comes from the amp. But if I want a little bit more, then I go to the Klon.
Okay, so you put some gain on it as well?
Yeah.
Not only like a
just a little bit. Yeah, just a little.
Okay, yeah, because Tube Screamer, if you set like the gain at 0 and the level at max, like people do, like with you're definitely getting the tone different.
A little
more
bit.
Mids and stuff.
Yeah, and Stevie had a way of getting it to work perfectly for him.
Yeah.
But the Centaur does a better job.
Okay, and so we are now getting to the amp. So I've seen like I think it was your amps tonight, like Soldano Slow. You played that one like since.
Yeah, I've had those since 1989. They're modified.
It's seen at a really high gain amps, you know. Yeah. And you're not like so high again, you know. Like actually, one of your best tones to me is like this edge of breakup, like slightly distorted sound you have in the solo sometimes.
Well,
like.
Mike Soldano modified all my Soldanos. They sound completely different than a stock SLO. Because those amps are designed to perform better at high gain, and I didn't want the high gain. So he changed it so I can get a big, thick sound with low gain. And to me, it's much, much better. And he says that a lot of people call him now and request that modification. But to me, that is it's similar to a good Marshall. And then the other amp, the Hamstead, is a continuation of Cesar Diaz, my old Diaz amplifiers. This guy, Peter McMahon, carried on. He used to work for Cesar. And so the Hamstead is like a different sort of Fender amp. And so it's like using a Fender and a Marshall, but a little bit different. And I never use them together. Only
so you
separately.
AB,
yeah.
Okay, so is it for specific parts, specific songs you're changing, or?
Yeah, the cleaner sounds come better from the Hamstead.
Yeah, obviously.
Now in the studio, I'll use them both together, and also a small amp combined, and then choose which ones sound the best. And the cabinets here are not my cabinets; they're rental. So
it's Marshall cabs. But at home, like you also play on Marshall cabs, or?
No, I use. We have cabinets and just put vintage 30s in one of them, and these Celestion 75-watt speakers in the other one. They're like Marshall cabinets, but they're all straight. I don't like slant cabinets.